But there's one major sector where traffickers tend to hide in plain sight: hotels.
We know that sex trafficking takes place in hotels and hotel rooms. We also know that individuals working at hotels can be in situations of forced labor, and labor trafficking can take place at any point in a hotel supply chain.
But Nakia Vestal, a survivor of sex trafficking, says hotel staff are sometimes in on it.
Most traffickers on that scale, they always have a set location where they work. They always pick a hotel where they work because it's comfortable for them. They know the people at the front desk. The people at the front desk know what's going on. So, for them to say, "Oh, we don't know what's going on," if you see the same individual and these same girls come every day, you know what's going on.
Hotels really
they play a part.
They play a big part.
Yeah, they do.
And I could definitely see how that could happen, especially at the lower rung hotels. Like the people who work in there, they're not making a lot of money. They're not even caring half.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So as long as you pay for the room, they're not paying attention to what's going on, But I do think they're part of the problem, but they're not the solution. Now, in relation to sex trafficking in general. So I wanted to talk about the grown woman factor because we talked about this. Now, when it comes to trafficking, people a lot of times don't think that it can happen to them. And I think there are many, many, many grown women that are missing across America. You know what I'm saying? Adult women that are missing who are being sex trafficked. Now, I'm not a big fan of, my wife and I've had conversations about this. I'm not a big fan about women going walking at night by themselves, jogging alone in the morning, especially if they're somewhere that it is not populated, but even places that are populated. I'm a big fan of women accompanying themselves. And I'll say this, and I want to, obviously let you say what you got to say. Now, I feel like if you're I don't know the experience. I'm not a woman. I'm a man. So as a grown woman, I understand the idea that, I'm a grown person. I want to be able to move around and do what I want to do when I want to do it. Right. But I think that with that being said, as a woman, you always have to be vigilant, especially if you're living in anywhere for that matter, but especially places where like a sex trafficking hub, we now know New Jersey is. So I think as a woman, you got to be vigilant and not to travel alone in certain situations because traffickers and kidnappers in general, they look for opportunity. So I wanted you to tell that story. Well, you could chime in and tell that story that we talked about.
No, right? I'm definitely chime in and I'm going to tell that story. Let's see, where should I chime in? So a personal experience. This is when we were living. The area was really nice. I don't know if we want to state like the location of the area.
West New York, New Jersey, right next to North Bergen.
Right across from the river. It was like, a very, very nice location. Honestly, it was probably around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, so the sun is out. People are getting up. They're going to work, so it's not an area that was rural or isolated in any kind of way. So when I was pregnant with our first child, I was doing my regular walk routine, before I was jogging, but now I'm walking at this point because I think I might be like 3 months pregnant or something. I'm showing a little bit of a belly. And I'm always cautious of vans. No matter what, I'm always cautious of vans. So I see this van, but I'm like, it's daylight. I ain't thinking nothing about it. Nobody's going to do anything in broad daylight. But I overheard as I was passing by the van, what about her?
Now, just for context, did the van stop or was the van?
It was already parked.
It was parked.
It was already parked.
Passing a parked van.
I was passing a parked van. Yep. And the door was open.
And you heard what?
And I heard there were 2 men in the van. And as I was passing by, I overheard one said, "What about her?" And the other one responded, "Nah." And I see it because I was looking out of my peripheral as I was walking past. It was like, "Nah, she pregnant." He was like, said it under his breath, "She pregnant." But I saw him do that. And I was just like, what was that conversation about? I'm like, why are they talking about me? What were they going to do to me? It never even crossed my mind about being human trafficked at any point. It really never crossed my mind that is probably what they were just looking for and what they were thinking about and what they were there for. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering, Like, if I wasn't pregnant, how would they had approached me? Would they just grab me and just pull me into the van? Or, I mean, so my mind began to go down so many tunnels. It's ridiculous of how that situation could have turned out to be something else had I not been pregnant. But for the simple fact that they are out there in the broad daylight, even saying, "What about this person? What about that person? Should we?" I'm like, what was their next step? Like, if I wasn't pregnant, would it be to have a conversation? Hey, you looking for a modeling gig? Hey, you looking for the blah, blah, blah? Because, there are people in, I mean, because they have schools in New York and New Jersey for modeling. I mean, this is like the hub for fashion, for design, for modeling, for all of that. This is like the fashion capital of the world. We're living right next to it. So to approach someone and say that there's a possibility for things like that may be an opportunistic time for them to try and approach a pretty lady. But at the end of the day, you know why they're there. They're there to humanly traffic them. And I mean, it could just be as innocent as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really could.
But like you were saying, back to the women, grown women. I was one of those grown women who could have been a potential victim. But grown women need to be aware of the scams that are out there too. Believe it or not, there are ads on Facebook that I've actually responded to just to kind of see where it leads me to. 40 plus women, looking for 40 plus women, 40-year-old women and over to model.
Okay, yeah.
Not to say that that's part of some kind of a scheme, but I can see how it could be. If you're responding, they're getting your information. They're asking for personal information, number one, so they know where you live. And then if you actually show up for one of these things, I mean, you're kind of
well, go ahead. I was gonna
say that's an opportunity right there. So with that, if you
need to go with somebody.
That's
what I'm saying. I'm not to cut you off, but that's what I'm saying about these situations is that
don't go at it alone.
Don't create opportunity for people. My thing. Look, even as a parent, I assume everybody's a kidnapper when it comes to my kids. I mean, it's just the way I am. And I think that you could call it being paranoid, but I think that it's beneficial for you to be vigilant because
any situation could be the situation.
And I don't give people opportunity. My thing is that regardless, don't give people opportunity. So I'm not a big fan of all these stories and I'm not blaming victims. I'm saying that all these stories where you have women who were killed jogging in the woods or jogging on desolate streets in the morning or in the dusk. I get it. You're an adult. You got to do what you got to do. But I think that you just can't give people opportunity. Or if you're going to do that, you needs to be ready with a knife or a gun or something.
Yes, I was going to say, because there are plenty of people out there who go out and exercise at the crack of dawn. They're trying to get their workout in before they even start the work day. But if you're going to do that and you're going to be alone and not with a group of people or maybe another person, you have be strapped. I would just say it's better to err on the side of caution. And I say this to all of my patients too, because I'm an occupational therapist. It's always better to err on the side of caution than to be caught out there.
Yep. Absolutely.
With no protection.
They're looking for opportunity.
Yeah.
And the same thing, even now they have a lot of these lights, police lights in Walmart and big lights in big parking lots, because a lot of these passenger vans, they would park next to people's car, women's car. They try to find women who are, vulnerable, putting in
their groceries if they have kids and they're trying to load the kids up in the car and handle groceries. I mean, all of it is a prime time because you're vulnerable. You're really vulnerable in those moments because you're busy doing something else. Yeah. And and
you got to make sure that you are not parked next to some big van. So a lot of the sex trafficking, we just played it. I mean, it's a huge industry, and I think that people generally think about kidnappers, rapists, and murderers versus sex trafficking.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of the cases of possible disappearances are sex trafficking, and people don't understand. They don't know it. You know, so You got to really, really be careful, particularly if you're younger, because they tend to, from what I see, they tend to go for the younger women that are in their 20s and younger. I mean, don't get me wrong, they go for women that are a little 30s, 40s can be victims too. But I
Absolutely.
think that women who are 30s and 40s are a little more aware about how they're moving around. Mom, people with kids, they tend to be a little more aware. Some not, but a lot of times the women who are in their 20s, mid 20s and younger, a lot of times they're just not aware, and they're just very open to either opportunities being presented to them, or they're just not paying attention,
or just being caught up in a vulnerable situation,
maybe on their phone or whatever it
Yeah.
is, and just not aware of their
Distracting.
surroundings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So don't think people don't pick up people or snatch up people in broad daylight. They do it as well.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm an advocate for that. For women, I think women have to be extremely careful all the time.
Yeah.